warm. It's very warm. Not a cloud in the sky. And that's, what was that, 32 degrees in the shade. I've done the second half. All the zoomers are welcome to zoom in. I see there's a few spots that I need to get back to, which I'll come back to tomorrow, maybe tonight. It is now after 2 in the afternoon. It is hot as hell. But I've finished the structure. That one's already cleaned up. But this one, I'm happy with that. I have a few little holes to spot up with the welder at the top there, which I didn't realize, but it was a fight getting through to the brace at the back and welding the plate at the front, trying to get everything penetrated at the same time. So I really had to kind of fight it, and it kept on running away from me. But it's good. I mean, you can see, as far as I'm concerned, there's some curves in there that should be. There's curves everywhere. Yeah. Next job will be clean out this thing, hoover it out. I like cleaning it out every night when I finish working. But then the big job to follow is holes. There's a bunch of holes in the floor. I'm not sure exactly why they're there. It's obviously a contact point. Holes, more holes. There's weak spots. I might cut some of that out and redo it. Or I might wire brush and oxidize. This is all loose. All the spot welds are torn loose. If you turn around, you can get a better idea. There's probably a hole there. Cut a little strip out. Welds pretty decent. That I'll poke and whack. Same as that one down there. Get all of that welded up, and then the tub's done. That might be the whole of tomorrow or whatever with this heat. Slows you down significantly. My donor, I'm so pleased. I said it before. I'm so pleased that I managed to get this old steel. It's thick gauge. It welds really nicely. And at some point we will get done with this thing. But for now, the 2 tubs at least are rebuilt. Floors next. It's about 8:30. It's been as hot as hell today. It's still about 23, 24 degrees Celsius. But I've come down to the garage, cleaned up the floor again. I like vacuuming it at night. And I've painted my rust converter stuff, whatever you want to call it, back on there, back tan, on the whole surface. So all you see, the black there, is all new metal. This side, I actually have added more over the top. It'll be black tomorrow morning fully. It takes a while to go black. You can see I sort of, some of the patches were still bare metal, some of it's covered by the actual seam sealer that I put on already. But I'll do the holes first, weld all that shit together. And once everything is back to the way it should be, I'll then come back in and add the seam sealer to the whole lot. I nearly got excited earlier on. I thought I had a window for the back of this thing. I picked up a canopy back window years ago. Somebody had lost a canopy on the side of the road and it lay there for about 2 weeks over Christmas, and eventually it just stayed there, and I thought, sod it, go look. And I found the whole sliding window unit that fit into the back of, I think, a Mitsubishi or one of those sort of 1-ton pickup trucks here in the UK. Sliding window, but I think it's going to be about 4 foot wide, and this one's only about 3.5 foot, so it's not going to work. Would it be nice if I could have had something that just fitted, so I could take that out and replace it with glass? But maybe there's a plan somewhere. I don't know. We can figure it out. Like everything else, you just make it up as you go along. Figure it out. So this is today's job. These are drains that fit right in the corner there. But you can see they're completely rusted out in a way. That one I just pushed out. But they're rusted right around, and they're slightly awkward. They're up against body or chassis parts. So what I'm going to do is actually take some of my metal from there, drill holes. I've found that I've got a step drill that Tattoo Don sent me many years ago, but its extreme size is almost the right size for that. Then I will use one of my body work hammers to basically stretch it ever so slightly all around the edge, because you'll see it's not that easy to see, but there is a drop off into which these rubbers sit. They actually recess, so I'll create that little drop off as well, and then once that's all welded in, that little ridge should go over or through there. You feed it through from the top down, pull it in, and it'll stop itself from dropping out. Then you've got water drains in the back. Not sure exactly when you use them, but obviously you do use them, and clearly you look at the amount of rust in here. Maybe all the rust came from the bottom up, I don't know, but I've already spoken about this. That one's going to be a bugger to do because it's part of the wheel tub and the floor, and there's a lot missing, and it's all closed in from the bottom because it's actually chassis parts. And then this and the other one, you can see there's bits missing. There's a shed load of body sealer underneath. I've pulled chunks of it off already, and the same on that side. This is not as badly rusted, but at the end of the day I need to cut chunks out, weld new pieces in. The fuel tank is below there. There's some fuel lines and a couple of soft lines, so I'm probably going to end up with a big wet rag first, then weld and pray that I don't set this thing alight. But these two will be the last two jobs that I take, I think. But holes first. That I also have to inspect the back of the cab, because that is so 50-50. I think I'm going to put the wire brush over there in a minute. If I put the wire brush over, guarantee we're going to tear holes into it, which will probably mean cutting out a strip and welding in a piece. Really don't want to do that, but got to do it right, eh? And there's that one to deal with. And there. These I'll just inspect, run the wire brush over them and see how bad they are. If there's any need, then I will run the welder and the cutter over it and do that. That little Allen bolt goes through and holds the whole fueling system fill-up section in. There was a stud welded into the bodywork here, and when I tried to undo it to move the filler stuff for all this welding, I ended up snapping it off, as you'd expect. So managed to drill it out. Mick helped me by lifting and moving things away, and then we got it seated. A really nice big 10mm bolt, short stubby little thing that fits in. But yeah, it's going to be another hellishly hot day. It's 9 in the morning, and let's see what the outside temperature is in the shade. There you go, 25 degrees already, and that's just in the shade. And then if you go into this little cubic box, it's like a steaming box. It gets hot as hell. But as always, just keep going, eh? We've got our pieces of metal, cleaned them up a bit. It's still the Jowett, donating of itself generously. Those corners will need to be bent, I suspect, and then the holes there will be basically a soft curve in each direction, so I'm going to probably cut a little relief cut in there. First thing I should do even before I start anything else, and that's the second piece. I'll straighten that out a bit. Give me a moment. Right, so I've trimmed them and shaped them slightly differently. You've got to use imagination. That's the corner, that's the hole. That and that will get folded up with also the tiniest of lips around the edge there, because it's flat, then goes up, then goes onto the flat surface, so that's a recessed section. So we need that bend up for sure, and ideally you'd want to weld it just at the top edge so you can shape that. I'm not sure if there's enough metal though, and the same with that one. I made it slightly bigger because the one side's actually worse. Passenger side's always worse in this country than the driver's side. The first thing to do is get a punch a couple of holes, sit down on my ass, work at this level. Straighten these out because these are obviously curved plates from the Jowett's trunk or boot lid. That'll be good enough for the moment. Once you start banging and bending, it's definitely going to go worse. Won't be good. I'm doing this incredibly unscientifically. Where's my marker? Basically what you want is for that to pop into this hole that I'm going to drill and be around about there. So let's do that. The nice thing is having enough material is that you can always go a bit wider. So what I'm doing is I'm making it wider, and then I can always trim this back and push it in a bit further, because once you've bent this you lose a certain amount of this as well. And the same with the other one. Looks a bit like that, and then once you fold it in you want it around about there somewhere. Highly unscientific, but functionally it'll work. Put the pen back where you found it, because then you can find it the next time you're looking for anything. This table is really needing a 1/2 inch of steel, but I couldn't handle a 1/2 inch of steel in a square meter if I was given it for nothing. You need 2 men and a horse, I guess, to move shit that. Want to do this in something that'll allow it to just drop a little bit more. The step drills don't start off easy when you work with them. They're quite blunt. Slight dent. Same with this one. Better. Beat the hell out of it so you can get the punch right through. Alright, so next job will be to run this drill through here. Hopefully it'll go all the way through. Battery gone? This one on charge. A little bit surprised, but I guess we live for surprises around here. Put this one on charge. See if this one will take us to the end of the job. But once I've punched and stretched it slightly, it'll be an easier fit. Let it go through there. I'm not going to push it through now. It has an interesting little valve thing to stop water and chunks from going up the root, and then obviously it drains out back onto the floor. But that's the first one done. See if we can do the second one if we have enough battery in these. I'm a bit surprised because I haven't used either of these tools much after the last charge. I also have a couple of these cheap Chinese ones that came with this incredibly cheap cutter, grinder, useful tool to get into some places. It's the only one I have of that because I'm not really into that sort of tooling, but cordless at times works, but I'm still stuck firmly in the previous century using corded tools and enjoying them. That section of the drill has probably been used a lot over the years. Those last few steps, you can see they just run straight through. They hardly ever get used. So I'm not going to try and undo this now because it's going to be hot. Not stupidly hot, but it is hot. So the next step will be to change positions. Go down to the floor, maybe use this. And put that over a receiver. And once you either use that to bang or use another hammer on top of that, you get a really nice stretch. You can use something like this as the backing. I have a couple of options actually. I also have that pipe end cap. These I've used when I made the spiders, but any of these will do the job quite well. And there, that's probably the right one. I'll do that down on the floor because this table isn't really built for this kind of thing. So yeah, I can see you in a moment in the next position. Those are done for the moment. I've changed my mind. I actually put that through and reamed it a little bit, but I thought I'd try this on the table because that camera is in a better position. You're seeing this, saying that, having reamed it, I have a very faint suspicion this is not going to work, but we'll try it. We'll try the pipe end cap and see just how much we can destroy this. There you go. That's nice. I'll be using the same plan when I do the front of the little van because I still have to do the radiator core support. So now when that goes in, look at that. Clips in and it's recessed. Little jobs take forever to do, but they are well worth doing. Now I've just got to lift that edge and lift that edge, then go and cut out. First of all, wire brush and see what I've got left of that hole in the corner. Cut out what's left. This will be bent up because there's an edge. This is recessed. But you tell me that's not a nice thing to do. So we'll do the other one as well. It's come out fairly easily, so I think once they're in, they're in. And I think if I sand it off the burrs on the edge with one of my little grinders, I'll be in a good place. Right, try number 2. We'll take 2. Part number 2. Same thing. Ball peen hammer, use another hammer. This is my dad's hammer. It was. Dad's been gone for, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years, I don't know, I don't care. It's never been important. His life's more important than his death. But yeah, this was his. And somehow it ended up in my toolbox when I moved to England 25 years ago. I think he gave it to me at the time, at some point. And you'll see at some point I made a stupid effort of painting all my heads white. in the hope that people would steal my tools. But you still find your tools in other people's spaces sometimes, because you've lent them out. What do you think? It's all right. Like that. Once again, go through. It'll clip in when you pull it through. And you've got a recessed drain. Excellent. Now the fun starts. Well, the fun will start in a minute. First, we'll get rid of that. Just push that away. Push this out the way. I will start by bending both of these in the right direction. Let's see, something like that. That's too sharp a bend, so we'll undo it partially. Something like that. Well, while we're at it. There you go. That's the section that'll go up, and maybe I'll end up having to use a pair of pliers just to nip the edge so I can weld on that edge. Obviously cut those two sides. So that's one patch panel done. Here's another one. Because this one has more damage, I've made it a longer lip edge. So hopefully that'll work as well. Let's see. Looks about right. That one will definitely need that lip to be bent back as well. Okay, I should have cut that piece off. I'll cut it off quickly. Never forget, cut the burrs off, grind the burrs off when you've been cutting. See, that one I didn't do. There's always a chance of bleeding because you didn't do it. Square. Just go a little bit down. Okay. There you go. Two sections. That one might be a touch short. I think it is going to be a touch short, so I have to redo it. It's not quite right. And to get it square, of course, keep these corners square. There we go. That might be the answer. Look slightly untidy, but that's all right. So there you've got the sides that can fold over and land on the top surface. Patch panels done. I'll just tidy the back up as well. And then they'll get some rust converter before I even weld them in. I think this is a good job. though it's now 11:15 already. But I've discovered more. Very carefully, you'll see there's holes through there. This edge, all of the seams are loose. Where's my hand? You can see all of this is loose. And loose, all of the spot welds are undone. There's surface rust there, but hopefully there's a tear over there, and there's a tear that I saw over there. That'll cut out a section and make a new patch and put that in there. You can see where the rivets, where the spot welds were they've torn out, obviously where people have put force in there. These things weren't built to be one-ton trucks. And there's a small bit of rust there, which I'll probably end up cutting out. Small hole there, I'll cut that out and replace. All of this is just surface. That's obviously quite a bit of hole there. These are mostly stains from what happened up there before. That hole isn't as bad as I thought it was, but I'll still cut it out and do a decent patch. That whole back end needs a new patch on both the floor and the back end of that. I'm not sure what I'm going to do there. I'm going to have to cut out one massively long strip, like a 3-foot strip. And then that hole, of course, is a bit of a surprise. It's much bigger than I thought it was going to be, but I'll get to that. This one, probably could have or should have done it a long time ago, but there you go. That's another hole in the tub, which I can weld up. Obviously the floor, the same thing. If you get seasick, I'm sorry. Come help me instead of standing behind the telly. More holes there. Both the chassis as well as the floor needs repairs. Another hole over there. And I think at that point, when I finished all of this, the rear tub might be complete. But that's definitely a day's worth of work with all the fabrication and slow welding and going over and doing a second weld. Once you've ground back and you've found more little holes and spots where you didn't quite hit the welds through. 11 o'clock, coffee time. I think coffee first, and then I'll come back and start welding, cutting and grinding. And just like that, we're back. So that's what we've exposed. Give you an idea. That's what we've made. So that's got to go in there. Cut out a section, shape, whatever, that piece into there. In fact, I'll probably cut that and then shape it in there. But those edges need to be folded back so that they can weld it over the top of those bends. This side, I've still got to think what I'm going to do. It's going to be a very complex repair. That side, obviously, same thing. And then this guy, this is just going to be quite a bit of thinking. It's definitely going to be a 2-part patch, or 3 parts even. But I can do it. Same as this. Biggest thing is that we have the fuel tank underneath it and some fuel lines and stuff. But I think the place to start is that one today. Let's get going. That one was a bit of a pain in the ass because it was so much more rusted. This one also rust, but I managed to cut it out a little bit differently. There's a toe in there because I've sit and weld barefoot so I can burn myself and have an excuse to swear. But I've managed to get it shaped around the corners and fairly tight. I've shoved a wet rag right up in here because the tank sits right down there, and all of this under seal that I found and more that someone has previously smeared on just to cover stuff up for MOTs, obviously, because if you smear stuff up over rust, it doesn't exist. Has been, yeah, to say the least, interesting because it keeps on burning and it stinks and it's black smoke and whatever. But as always, we have no choice I saddled the horse, I need to ride it until I fall on my ass. Managed to do this one without setting myself alight, or that van for that matter. I've welded that one up, and I'm just going to do the most basic of grind over the tops, because this back corner, both corners really are out of sight first of all. Secondly, there's actually a bed liner that goes in here for those that don't remember, and that's been re-cleaned and painted already. That'll wait to go in obviously at some point. But what's nice is once I've added that in, you won't see any of this stuff, although this is being treated. First of all, obviously the welding in, replacing all the rusty holes. Then I will seam seal everything else again. Over the top of the seam sealer, I'm going to buy some paint, what do you call this, bed liner. I think you can get a rattle can for about, I think it's 22 or 23 pounds online. And then what I'll do is I'll mask off the floor around these edges. I won't do that bulkhead, and I won't do these sides because they've got these little panels in. But everything else I'll mask off where I've worked, etc., including the floor, which will just get it an overall cover. And then basically cover it in a can of rhino liner, or whatever you want to call it, bed liner in white. And once that's done, it'll get some paint over the top of that, and then the tray will go back in again. So to be honest, even what I'm doing now is probably excessive, but it sort of makes me happy that I'm giving this van another chance, if nothing else, to become part of my fleet, to be used as a daily, or else if somebody needs it more than me, obviously they might end up buying it off me, but for the moment this is my van. I wanted to buy one of these years and years and years ago, and I couldn't because the guy had crashed it into the side of a deer on the way to work, so the whole front fender and stuff was caved in, and I just thought, you know what, can't be asked, walk away. So that was me on that one. That didn't happen. Good enough. I saw what I thought was some rust over there, but it was just surface rust with the paint bubbling a little bit. We could ground that. So that is that job done. And then obviously these little drain pipes go down there. They fit and they get fitted in. There they go around the corner, and then they drain out if you've got the bed to drain with non-return, little non-return valve, if you want to call it that. But I'll only put that on after I've done all the treatments and managed all of this into a corner, I guess you could say. Right now, pretty chuffed. Next job are these big ones. There's one on each side. One's worse than the other. And then I've got to do that other side, the big hole in the side of the tub, which pisses me off because I should have done it yesterday. I'll be honest, I was sick and tired of this thing by the end of play last night with that heat. When you're working in 32, 33 degree heat, and that's in the shade, and this little box sits here and you're sitting inside of this box, trust me, it gets tiring. So you just eventually say sod it and give up. Give up isn't the right word. You just go and do other stuff, which I obviously did. I think it's time to vacuum. Obviously, that's a close-up of what came out. These two, those were the drainage holes that were there in place. And again, if you look at that, silicone smeared around the edges, but some very clever bodywork guy that obviously was getting paid to repair this and just said, nah, we'll just put silicone on. Silicone's good. It's structurally sound. So yeah, there we go. Thanks, people. Next one. This one's awkward because it's still got one of its, or maybe even two of its spot welds holding it down. Once I've done that, I'll clean it up. Put the rust converter back in there because obviously it's all closed in, and then cut a piece to shape. Weld it in. It would be nice if the job was done by now. Once again, it's been a long day. What is the time? Let's see what the time is. 20 to 8, just about. And I've literally just shut the garage. I'm in a bit of a dirty state, if that's okay. Rust oxidization at the back, 2 holes closed in. Another one over there somewhere. Where are we hiding? There. So those I'm happy with. Then I filled that up with about 4 different pieces because it goes. Where are we? Where's my hand? Oh yes. Okay, let's do that. It has a curve that way and that way. There is a step down. So there's a flat, there's a step up, there's a curve, and there's another step up again. So it's a little bit complex. So I ended up actually, I was going to make it out of one piece, 160 by 140 mil, and then I thought, screw it. So much easier cutting 3 or 4 pieces. Anyway, that little guy, I've done a patch from the outside and the inside because it's meant to be double skinned, but I thought I'd do it that way. That one I'm quite pleased with that. That's come out really well. I put a little brace in underneath. That one tomorrow morning. This one tomorrow morning. Cooper Trucks and Brian, thank you. And then this lot I've wire brushed. There's some welding that needs to be done, just remedial welding. I'm literally just gonna probably end up cutting that piece out. But as for the rest, just reinstate all of the spot welds, and then for that, hopefully that'll be the done thing. What I didn't do tonight is I didn't put rust oxidation, where it's my finger, on that piece, all around the corner there, but the underside and the backside of all of them have already been done. But I started just putting it over the top of everything, because once I've put the seam sealer on all the welding joints that I've done, putting over a load of, not a load, but some bed liner. I don't think you're really going to care, but what's going to be nice is that one sort of stopped that rust from going any further. So yeah, good night. I still need a glass for that with a rubber. Anyone know anyone? Let me know. 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's 27 degrees or 80 degrees Fahrenheit. But I got started early, about half an hour ago. I've put obviously rust converter on everything I could touch, and I've cut out another panel and shaped it. It's ready for welding. I think this is pretty good. All of these things actually, once they tucked in, they butted up close. I still have that one to do. That one's finished. I did it on both sides last night. Obviously the holes in the back, chuffed. So yeah, bit by bit, it's getting there. Soon enough. I can step away from the back end of this thing and carry on the front. It's Friday. I think it's going to be a short day because of this heat. They said 32 degrees Celsius, which is roughly, what, 90 odd, 93 I think, Fahrenheit. So yeah, let's get going. Cut out, weld, repeat. Last bit, spot welds, it failed all along here. So the whole back of the floor was loose, damaged. So what I've done is a bit of a bodge. I've added 5mm by, I think it's 20mm flat bar in, big heavy welds, as you can see, onto the actual bed, proper run-ins, and then so these spot welds that I've put on the edge should keep everything solid. I'm just going to grind it back quickly, and then I'm actually done with the whole of the rear of this bloody thing. I'm tired of it. And right now, outside temperature, unbelievably, is already at 31 degrees Celsius. That's almost 90 Fahrenheit. It's not 10 o'clock yet, and it's that hot in the shade. Keep in mind this is in the shade. So yeah, we're in for a hot day today, to say the very least. But I'll quickly grind this back, clean everything up, and then put rust, oxidizing converter, whatever you want to call it there. That little patch that I cut out as well. And then obviously the one that I did this morning early. All of those should be done, and I'm done. And I'm going to walk away from this for the rest of the day. I really don't think I need to be down here. I might have found a window glass for 50 quid. I think it's in Chesterfield or somewhere. It's up north. I need to find a way of getting it down here safely. Anyone can help? Let me know.